Published 0347 Est, 21 November 2017. Updated 0653 Est, 21 November 2017. Gary Mottershead, of Sale, Greater Manchester, raped and molested a 6-year-old boy in the 1980s and thought he had managed to evade justice. A father off or arrested over a row with his wife was revealed to be a rapist when he was put in the same prison cell as his former victim. Gary Mottershead, of Sale, Greater Manchester, spent more than 3 decades believing he had got away with his crimes after he raped and molested a 6-year-old boy in the 1980s. But in 2015, after the 50-year-old was detained on suspicion of assaulting his wife, Mottershead was remanded in custody and in a twist of fate was sent to the same cell where his victim, now 43, was being held for burglary. The victim, who cannot be named at first, didn't recognize his cellmate but began to realize he was the offender who abused him between 1981 and 1983 and told a prison guard. In a subsequent statement he made addressing Mottershead directly, the man said, "I have lived with this all my life and kept it a secret. Prison was the last place I expected you to be and I felt I couldn't get away from it." At Minchell Street, Crown Court, Manchester, Mottershead was jailed for 6 years after he was convicted by a jury of 1 count of rape and 6 counts of UAL assault on a male under the age of 13. He denied wrongdoing. The assaults occurred when Mottershead was just 15 and had been asked to babysit the victim, then aged 6, whilst his parents went out for the evening. He would ply the boy with cider before coercing him into UAL encounters, saying it was the little secret, and would usher the boy's older sister to her bedroom so that he could be alone with his victim. Tormented by his childhood experience, the boy, who came from a respectable family, turned to a life of alcohol, drugs and organized crime. Prosecuting Mark Kellett told the court the defendant was acting as a babysitter and he would give the victim cider before usually assaulting him. This continued for a period of time and the defendant threatened the boy that if he told anyone he would usually assault his sister. The offences took place between 1981 and 1983 but were not reported by the victim until August 2015 when the defendant was subsequently arrested. In mitigation for Mottershead, defense counsel Thomas McHale said until he was convicted by a jury, this defendant had limited experience with the criminal justice system. He was 15 years of age when these offences took place and this was an immature individual. He sat only 3 exams at school and from then on it was a case of on and off employment. He was a usually curious 15-year-old but it is not suggested that he was targeting the victim, or violent towards him in any way. This offending stopped here and there was no repetition. He is now 50 years of age and has no other UAL offending on record. At the time of these offences he was a 15-year-old and he has worked all through his adult life. There is absolutely no suggestion that this offending was part of a pattern of offending. At Minchell Street, Crown Court, pictured, Manchester, Mottershead was jailed for 6 years after he was convicted by a jury of 1 count of rape and 6 counts of UAL assault on a male under the age of 13. He denied wrongdoing. But sentencing Mottershead Judge Timothy Moore told him, "You would arrive at the house with your own and in addition you used to bring a bottle of drink with you, usually cider. This made you more relaxed and you also gave it to the boy, no doubt to make him feel more relaxed. You and he would sit listening to and you would give him swigs of cider and this would become a regular pattern. You used to make his sister go upstairs to bed even though she was older and you would shut the door on the 2 of you. Once you and he were alone you used to tell him that it was our little secret and that if he told anyone that he would usually abuse his sister, and a pattern of abuse began in which you took control of the situation by telling him what would happen to his sister if he ever told anyone. As a little boy he believed that and said nothing. It was as he got to his teenage years that it dawned on him that this was wrong and he felt ashamed and dirty. He was from a respectable family but from the age of 16 he began to go off the rails and I have no doubt that his inability to share what had happened must have played a part in putting him into the wrong group. The use of drugs and alcohol were no doubt to drown out feelings of what you did to him and he then became involved in crime. In 2001 he made admissions that he had been abused as a child, and in the 2000s he told his family but swore them to secrecy. He instead carried this burden, not knowing how to tell anyone. It wasn't until the pair happened to be remanded together when the defendant was arrested for assaulting his wife and the victim was arrested for burglary. You knew very well that what you did was wrong, in the way you threatened his sister. This was an abuse of trust situation. This pattern of abuse must have occurred at least 15 if not 20 times. You may have been immature at the time, but you were not so immature that you didn't know how to control your victim. He didn't recognize you at first, but said, "I have lived with this all my life and kept it a secret. Prison was the last place I expected you to be, and I felt I couldn't get away from it." He realized it was time to speak to someone, and the prison officer described him as distressed and shaking. What you did caused serious emotional distress and has had a bearing on his involvement with crime. You may have been emotionally immature at the time, but you were physically mature and you knew that you were there to babysit and you were being paid to do so. You knew very well that what you did was wrong, in the way you threatened his sister. This was an abuse of trust situation. This pattern of abuse must have occurred at least 15 if not 20 times. You may have been immature at the time, but you were not so immature that you didn't know how to control your victim. After the case, Detective Constable Paul Walls of Greater Manchester Police said Mottershead's behaviour was a complete abuse of trust and shows his depravity as an offender. The way he acted with a 6-year-old boy is absolutely disgraceful, and I am so grateful to the victim that he bravely reported Mottershead's actions so that we could bring him to justice. No matter how long it has been since a UAL offence occurred, we take every report seriously and work tirelessly to ensure those responsible face the consequences of their actions.